So, did you watch the Grammys last night?
I watched a little bit of the Grammys last night.
I'm always curious with, people like yourself who, you have a different perspective than I do, who has a different perspective. It just depends where you are on kind of the spectrum here. Like when you watch the Grammys, I just wonder, has Kane ever been nominated?
No.
Okay, and that's going to be something else I'm going to get to where I feel like Kane is the most underappreciated massive artist we have. And I mean massive in the truth.
I agree.
So I will get to that.
Great.
But you watched the Grammys, a bit of it, or
Yeah, I watched a bit of it.
20 minutes?
Yeah, 30.
What do you think when you see the Grammys? Like on TV, what comes to your mind?
I mean, I've seen the Grammys in person and
Mhm.
I've seen the Grammys on TV. And when I look at it on TV, I try to think of it like a fan would think. So I hope they're getting the experience that they want. And you just know everything that goes into it. And on these TV shows, their ratings are unfortunately falling. And so I sometimes watch it thinking, are they doing certain things to try to help their ratings?
It's an interesting ratings question because I have been asked to host, without saying which ones, an award show or two here.
Sure.
And when they say, hey, we're going to do it like all the other years, it's like, man, everything is pointing down because we have more options.
Right.
There's more stimuli everywhere.
Right.
And so if you're doing it the same and I'm going to be a part of it and then it goes down, I'm going to be blamed for it going down as the host. That's what I'm feeling because it's going to go down.
It's going to go down.
If it's flat, that's a huge victory.
Yes.
So my approach has been, let's do some things that are a bit different. And I understand when they go, well, if we do it different, it hasn't been tested, hasn't been researched.
Sure.
And it could really bomb out. And in my mind, we're either going to bomb or we're going to do worse. And I would rather bomb with the chance of crushing.
Yeah.
Just generally for my career. And I guess that's what I'm getting to here.
100%.
Is I would rather take a swing so hard
Yes.
that I may miss 7 times in a row. And you know what? I'm okay because I swung with my gut as hard as I could.
Yes. You have to.
And it feels a bit like that's a bit what your methodology is in general.
Yes.
Did all of that kind of make sense together? Did I tie it all together into how I see you as a visionary?
I appreciate that. That's very nice. Yes, no, but you're accurate. I mean, that's completely accurate. I don't like to play small. But I also am so drawn to things. I like things that can move and shape and shift culture. Like that is my personal mission statement. That is what I love. That's what I get so excited about. And so when you have anything that's going to affect culture, a lot of people are not going to like it.
And they're not supposed to.
Right. Makes people uncomfortable.
Yes, absolutely.
People don't like change.
Growth hurts, and physically and creatively.
Yeah,
Growth hurts.
No, it's true, but then you wind up in a better place. But so to me, because that's what I'm drawn to, then naturally, of course, you're taking big chances. I said this the other day, you can't be afraid to fail. People are so afraid to fail. And I think in this social media era, they're even more afraid to fail because now everybody's watching them fail. You can't fail quietly anymore. And so you have to just not worry about that, not be afraid.
My last book is called Fail Until You Don't. And it's basically that. And what I did was, not only did I write my thoughts on it, I grabbed my most successful friends and had them not talk about success, but their big fat failures.
Yes.
And so I had the governor of Arkansas. I had Stapleton. I had, at the time, a songwriter that hadn't had any songs on the radio but was plugging away, and he had lots of failure, Walker Hayes.
Yes.
And so, and his thing was he just did it. Even then, when he wrote this in my book, what he did was different, and it wasn't catching, but he wasn't going to stop doing it. And it's such a testament to just what you said there. If you're trying to change a culture, a lot of people aren't going to like it because a lot of people are just living in that culture where they think they're happy.
Right.
They don't even know how happy they can be.
Well, they're comfortable. There's a difference, right, between happiness and comfortable. And I also personally am very driven by like becoming your best version of yourself. Not just me, but those around me, probably to an annoying point. And so I also think if you're comfortable, then you're not growing, thus you're not becoming the best version of yourself. You're not evolving. But a lot of people, I'd say 50% of people would rather sit in comfort, even if they know it's not the right situation, than feel the pain of change.
When you said that people don't want to fail now because everything is so public, you're absolutely right. But the thing is, if we think about our failures and we think about, for me, the times that I've either, I mean, I do so much radio, I don't think about failure there because it's just hours. So I'm going to take that out. But like when I'm on live television, if I'm doing American Idol or presenting at an award show, there have been times where I've screwed up pretty bad.
Mm.
Nobody remembers it. We
I don't remember it.
Right. We remember it because it's us.
Yeah.
And so therefore we feel like, well, since we remember it, everybody else must remember it too.
No, they're remembering their own stuff.
That's right.
They don't, it's like the thing about like when you go to the beach and you're worried about how you look, and then it's like, don't be worried because everybody else is worried about how they look. Like that's life.
And if we could just assign that to, if we gave ourselves the grace to realize that people aren't really keeping track, they don't have a notepad of all of our failures. They don't care. They're so worried about themselves.
But that's ego though, because our ego thinks people care, right? And Nikki, one of the people that works with me, she got tattooed on her arm, "Kill your ego," in huge letters on her arm to remind her, like, don't worry about what other people think, because that's just feeding your ego. Set your ego aside and just be driven by purpose and you'll be fine.
So was watching the Grammys. Another takeaway I had was and maybe it's because I'm getting older, but I don't think that's it. I just don't like celebrities anymore. I don't.
That's troublesome for your line of work.
Well, no, because I am not a celebrity. And I don't like the artists who present themselves as untouchable. And I think the consumers are annoyed by untouchable celebrities as well.
I agree.
And that's really the feeling that I got when even watching clips of it was, you're not better than us. And I feel like that's one of the last pieces of culture with Hollywood and a little bit of Nashville that hasn't been broken down yet, where I think it's just lagging. I get annoyed with really famous people who know they're really famous and act really famous.
Mm.
But I think that's where Kane has been able to thrive.
Yeah, no, he is who he is. That's all. I mean, he is the person that you see on social media or on television, or he's painfully honest, and I appreciate that about him.
And it's the new generation. Like Luke Combs is the same way.
Completely true.
When Luke got a new Rolex, he's like, listen, I don't buy Rolex. I didn't used to buy Rolexes, but now, like, I've made money and I bought my first one. And he told the story, and you're like, hey, listen, I think some artists who have 40 Rolexes wouldn't admit to anything like that because they don't want to be something that they think they shouldn't be.
Right.
When in reality, we just want to feel like it's a real person.
Yes.
And I think Kane has done an excellent job there. I'm sure a lot with your guidance, but it's a lot of who he is too.
Yeah.
Of low to high, however you want to define that, he's just remained the same person, even though the circumstances have been changing around him.
Yeah. Well, he's also vulnerable, confidently vulnerable, if that makes sense. And I think that's critical too. He'll admit when he doesn't know something. I've seen him in an interview and he'll just look at the person asking him some sort of question and he'll say, I don't know what that word means that you just used. You know, like he just is very confident and comfortable in who he is. And I think that then you don't have to front and you don't have to put on a persona that people think, like you were saying, is disingenuous.
I feel like, and then I want to get to your origin, but I feel like I am not smart enough to lie and keep up a front because I would just forget. I would just forget. And I think that's a bit why now. And I also understand that people can be rubbed the wrong way by me quite frequently because I do push against culture a lot and I do have opinions and I'm also hard-headed, right? And I think a lot of times when the Venn diagram happens to all the way overlap and you get all of them, I understand it, but it's hard for me to be something I'm not just because I can't remember.
Well, yeah.
I can't remember the lies I've told
or
if I was going to tell them.
Or it's exhausting, right? You're exhausting and your energy is going more into being a person you aren't than to being the person you are. And that, I think, would be very tiring.
So when you moved to Nashville, and Apparently, we're being raided right now by the law
I'm
enforcement.
at to go
Yes.
in a second.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's actually my entourage. They're coming right now.
They're late.
Yeah,
That's a
that
bad
happens.
that's a bad police escort, the one that follows you here
Yeah,
10 minutes
that
behind.
is true.
You grew up in Pennsylvania?
Central Pennsylvania, yes.
Like, what was hometown like?
Small town, every town in America, flyover state town. Yeah, it's weird. The neighborhood I live in now in Nashville is larger than my entire hometown. It's really strange. And I didn't know about the music industry, of course, but my parents were, especially my dad, really into traveling. Like they love travel. They love to take us places and see things, and not like the beach. I never went to the beach. I never went to the beach until I was, I think, 21 years old. But we went to England, or we went to, weird Scotland, places like that. And so I always was interested in the world and a larger world view. So when I left, it was I knew I was going to leave. I knew I wasn't going to live there.
So it wasn't it's obviously a jump, but it wasn't a big jump that you had never imagined when you left.
No, it was the only thing I could imagine was being on my own. I mean, I was 17 and I went to college. I went to college in New Jersey for a year and a half before I moved down to Nashville. And it was just the most natural transition for me.
Why did your parents travel so much? Which one, and what was, why? How
I don't
did they
know.
get the bug?
I think it was my dad. I think, they're both my parents are really intelligent, curious people. And I think they just wanted to see the world, as I do. I love traveling. I love it.
Yeah.
Big perk.
Yes, until you do it all the time. Like, I'm so torn on it now.
Yeah.
I never traveled. I never left my state until, I don't know, late teenager. But then you're like, I can't wait to travel. And so I started to go places, even by myself, that I'd seen on television. Japan, because Full House, Jesse and the Rippers was there. Hawaii, because of the Brady Bunch. So I didn't know anybody. I'm from a really small town in Arkansas, and nobody traveled. But I just knew places from television. I went to London because friends went to London. So that's how I made my first grid of where to travel. And so traveled, and then started touring, doing stand-up and I was like, God dang, I never want to go anywhere again.
Yeah, that's a grind.
And I'm pulled back and forth because I like it, and then you get exhausted of it, and then you really just want to pick your places. Do you do that now where you have to travel a bit?
Yes.
The last few years obviously have been different with the pandemic.
I've traveled more though since Kane went and Restless Roads was on that tour. I've traveled more for that tour than any time before, because pandemic hit, right? We were traveling and whatever, and then when we got back out on the road, it just felt different. Things just felt different, and unfortunately, we thought we would get back out on the road in September of 21, and it would be like all just like butterflies and popping bottles of champagne and pats on the back. And instead, it was just this like specter of this, when is the other shoe going to drop? When's this all going to go away again? And that's a heavy feeling, right? And so I found like I needed to be out there every single weekend. And so instead of in the past, maybe I would go to 2 shows a month, now I'm going to 8, 10, just the way it goes.
You go to school for a year and a half. Did you drop out?
No, I transferred. I've told this story before. It's funny.
But I've never heard it.
Oh, okay.
So
treat
me as somebody new.
It's kind of embarrassing. Everybody thinks it's funny. But so I was good. I liked when I was young in high school, I liked track and field running, and I was good at playing the piano. And so I got a better scholarship for playing the piano. So I went to this music school in New Jersey, and it was a classical music school where I had, got a piano, whatever, scholarship. And so you had to declare your major. And I didn't want to be a piano player. I didn't think that, and I didn't want to be a music educator, because those people are like the bottom of the barrel, abused, in elementary school or high school. The music teacher gets picked on the most. So you had to declare a major, and I was like looking at the options, and they were pretty limited. I mean, the school was small. It was 350 people. And I was like, what job works 2 days a week and gets a full-time salary? Church organist. So my major in college, I'm 17, pipe organ major, right? And so I was a pipe organ major, and after like 2 months, I was like, oh my God, what am I doing? This is insanity. And so I started trying to figure out like what I could possibly do. And one of the girls who was there, who was graduating, she's going to NYU to be an entertainment attorney. She's going to law school. And I was like, oh, wow, I didn't know that you could be in the music business. That's amazing. And so I just got online and learned about the music business and how do you go to college for the music business. And I ended up down here.
So you moved from New Jersey to Nashville.
Yes.
This is probably what, 90?
I mean, ish. Let's
Okay,
just, you know.
good enough. So you moved down
Not
and
1990, by the way. I feel
right,
I
I
need
was
to say
gonna
that.
I was gonna be like 99.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So you moved down from New Jersey to Nashville, especially then. It seems like that would be a little bit of a culture shock.
A little bit. I mean, it was honestly, it was more of a culture shock moving from central Pennsylvania to New Jersey because small towns are small towns, regardless of where you are, north or south
That's
of
a
the
good
Mason
point.
Dixon
Yeah,
line.
that's a good point.
So moving down here felt the energy felt similar, more similar to where I grew up. But it was just such a big town. Even that long, 20 plus years ago, Nashville was so big, and I loved it. And I went to MTSU. Belmont and MTSU were the two colleges, and MTSU just spoke more to me, and so that's where I went. And I graduated, and it was a great experience.
Did you live in Nashville or did you live out near campus?
I lived in Murfreesboro. I
Yeah.
did what everybody does. I lived in Murfreesboro, and then I made that transition into Antioch, and then I made the transition into town.
So what was your first entry level? You're done with school, Nashville job.
Well, I was an intern. I interned the summer between my junior and senior year at Warner Chappell Music Publishing. And I didn't really know a lot about music publishing. And I got in there and I really liked it because you're on the ground level of the creative process. But I was always drawn to the artists and the artist songwriters. Not like I love regular songwriters, but there's something really interesting to me. So like Jason Aldean and I talk about this all the time. I was the intern and he had just gotten his publishing deal and he was brand new to Nashville. And so every time we see each other, we tell stories. Like everybody looks at us like we're crazy, but 20-year-old stories. And so watching these artists, it was Jason, it was Little Big Town was signed there. It was watching these people come up through their careers and write their albums and develop their art and become artists was really, I loved it. And so they offered me a job. I became the receptionist. And then I went and worked in like the tape copy room of Warner Chappell and just worked my way up.
When you are in this town and you're working in the industry, but not all the way in the industry like your goal is to be, but are there like, hey, if you come and do this and you do well, eventually you can move into this part of it. Is that kind of
Yes.
an unspoken rule or is it spoken?
It's completely how it works. No, I mean, I tell anybody even now, like when we hire an intern or something, it's like this could turn into a job if you do what needs to be done.
It's so hard to find dependable people. It's so hard to find people that will show up and because I've had this experience with, I mean, even Mike over here, he was an intern. Then I got him an assistant producer job and I said, hey, move to Nashville and just be my assistant for a minute. And I swear to God, if you just show up.
Yes.
I got him an assistant producer job on the show, answered phones. Now he's running the whole thing.
Yeah.
But it's really because he's dependable and trustworthy and everything else was developed out.
Right. Smart, I think is important.
But I wouldn't know that from the entry level stuff that he was doing at first. He had all the opportunity to prove that, like he's not even here right here looking at me. and the fact that he's this elevated is because he's really quite brilliant. But early on, I don't need you to be that smart. I just need you to color in the circles.
Right.
And if you do that wonderfully, holy crap, now you get the opportunity to do this. And then you start to expand. And that's just been the problem that I have had with hiring people in the last 3 or 4 years is they just want to come and do it all immediately.
Right.
And we're not looking for that quite yet. You're going to have a time to shine, but if you show up on time with a good attitude and a good work ethic, you can do anything in the whole world.
You can do anything. Yeah. Somebody put it best where they said, to do what I'm doing, you have to do what I did. And I think sometimes people forget that and they just say, well, I want to do what you're doing. But then you have to do what I did. Because all of my experience, I have no regrets. All of my experience, job experience, has led me and given me the tools to do what I do now. And if I had just jumped to the front of the line, I wouldn't have gotten that. I wouldn't be where I am. I wouldn't be able to do this job.
Did you feel working in publishing, especially early on, with your music background? A lot of folks have a music background here in some way, that you could like hear a song and like hear the hook and be pretty good at going, hey, it's a pretty good song. Did you have that talent?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I don't, yeah, I think so. I mean, I think I know what I like. I think I have pretty down the middle of the road musical taste. But I also think I learned in publishing that that everybody likes different things, and not everybody's going to like every single song. I don't like every single song that's on the radio right now, but somebody else likes that song too. So I think publishing was a great way to learn to sort of get over maybe your own personal preference and just kind of think about, is this going to reach somebody somewhere out there?
What was your first big, to scale, because obviously you're pretty new, success that allowed you more opportunities over there at the publishing company?
I think my first, I think getting to work with Little Big Town was a big deal.
And what do you mean getting to work with them?
They signed them as songwriters, and they said, okay, Martha, you're going to work with Little Big Town. And so it's basically they'll send you their new songs, or they'll allow you to set up a co-write, or, sit in on a song meeting or something like that. I think that was great. I think I did work with some really great songwriters back in the day that won. I remember, actually, I'll tell you one thing that for me, from a career perspective, there was a song that Rascal Flatts put out called I'm Moving On. I don't know if you know that song.
I do know it, yeah.
It's brilliant. It's brilliantly written. And I repped that writer, and I remember it won ACM Song of the Year. And that was back in the day when they allowed the publisher to come on stage when the songwriter accepted the award. And so I remember going up on stage, and I was like, this is it. It doesn't get any bigger or better than this. Because in my life at that moment, it never had, and I can still feel like talking about it. I feel it. And so I would say that for me was like a turning point of going, okay, wow, I'm attaching myself to great talent.
Did you feel like publishing was where you were going to live?
No. I'm a terrible publisher.
So then you're working, are you just accumulating skills in your mind, or are you just trying to find your next spot?
Trying to find your next spot, right? And that's the thing, is you have to do, I was trying to I started my own company, my own publishing company with a colleague. We started a second company that became what's now Big Machine Music. I mean, we did a good job, but I always felt like I was wearing like a shoe that was like a size too small or something. And so it was the discovery process for me.
When you say you started a company that became Big Machine, what do
Publishing.
Oh, got it.
Publishing.
So did Big Machine buy?
Yeah, so basically, Mike Molinar, who still works for Big Machine, we started a company. We had a first company with an investor, sold that back to him, had the ability to do a second company. The second company, we signed some artists and talent that Scott had signed to his label as well, and we helped develop them. And Scott came to us and said, hey, I don't have anybody developing talent and songwriters like you guys are. I want to start a publishing wing of Big Machine. Can I do that with your company that you guys have? And I knew at that point I wanted to get into management. And I think for Mike, that really was an aspiration of his, to have the resources to really, they're killing it. He's killing it right now. And so here we are.
When you want to get into management at that age, 20s, early 30s, what did it mean to you then?
Oh my gosh, I had no idea. I mean, I'm so fortunate because the first artist that I managed was just up and coming. And so he allowed me to learn alongside him. So I remember I thought we had him, he was opening up for Rodney Atkins.
Who's he?
His name's Greg Bates. He had one
I know who Greg
hit
Bates is, yeah.
called Did It for the Girl. Great songwriter. And he, so he was opening for Rodney Atkins at like a casino in Biloxi, Mississippi. And I was like, all right, we got a gig. And so I didn't know. So I thought you had to advance the gig. And so I don't know why I called the casino. I should have just called Rodney Atkins, whatever. You learn. I called the casino, and this like grouchy man was like, you want to advance the gig? And I was like, yeah, yes, I do. And he was like, okay, well, all right, what do you need? And I was like, I have no idea. And he goes, okay, how many DIs do you need? I don't know what a DI is. And he was, and then he just starts laughing. And so then he just starts telling me, a DI, is your guy playing a guitar? Yes. Okay, you need a DI because he's going to plug his guitar in. Is he singing? And I said, yes. Okay, you need a microphone. Is he bringing anyone else? No. Okay, you just advanced your first show. And I was like, all right, that's easy.
And so I guess you go to your first show?
Yeah, we drove down there. I had a red Volkswagen Jetta and drove it's a long, long drive to Biloxi.
Because it's water. It's you got to drive all the way down the water.
It's way down there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you finish your first show. Is it is it a high? Is it your
It's
first?
amazing.
You're like, we just did it. Our first show. It just got me 15%. And you know what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't. I mean, if you do the math, it's not. It wasn't. I spent more in gas, but that's okay.
So what did you learn from your time with Greg? If I were to say, you get one lesson to share with the world about your time with Greg as a manager, what'd you learn?
I would say that I learned that. God, that's a great question. I would say during my time with him, I learned how to be confident in being a manager and be confident in asking questions and saying, I don't know, but I'm going to go figure it out. I'm going to go find out. I'm going to admit that I don't know the answer to something.
Because you were inexperienced, I'm assuming there was a fear in admitting you were inexperienced because then people would think of you as inexperienced.
Yeah, I mean there was some of that, but I did ask a lot of questions, and a lot of people helped me. You know, a lot of people. His booking agent, Mark Dennis, who works at CA, he was really helpful. Early days, the label, Jimmy Harnan, Scott, they were great. They were very patient with me.
So from Greg, then what happens?
So when I was I was working at another management company. So we did the big machine deal. I knew I wanted to do management full time. I went to work with a management company, and I really learned a ton there. And that was with a manager named Jason Owen, who manages Casey Musgraves and Dan and Shay and a bunch of people. And so when I started working there, they had just launched the Casey album, that amazing record.
Same trailer, different part?
Yeah. And I remember just observing how they did it. And it was so different than coming from a big machine where country radio was that was the biggest promotion, the way you promoted an artist, to more like media and marketing with Casey. It was just fascinating to watch. And so I was able to learn, wow, there's different ways that you can reach people. And that, I think, is something that I've applied even now with Kane. We have to reach people in different ways because not everybody's paying attention to a New York Times article, but also not everybody is listening to the radio all the time either.
So working with Jason, what was your job there? Was it to help on a bunch of artists? Did you have your own artists that you were day-to-day on?
So I was a day-to-day because I brought Greg with me, and I was a day-to-day. And then Jason was his company was going through I don't want to say too much of his business, but it was going through a transitional period. So I wasn't able to really sign anything. And then, so then I left because I was bored and I wanted to work on more projects. And so I left, and that would have been in January of 2015. I left and kind of said, I'm going to go out on my own. I want to sign some more things because I wasn't really able to do that at Sandbox, which is his company. And so then I was just kind of on my own, and I signed some art, so just was working with some artists. And I said, and this sounds like a very Oprah thing to say, but in January of 2015, I was like, I'm going to say yes to everything because something is out there. I can feel it. I know there's something coming, and I don't want to miss it because I say no. So I was approached by a guy named Jay Frank to be a consultant for his company that he had, which was an independent record label. And so I said, okay, all right, I'll go try this out. Yes, I'll do it. Meanwhile, managing a couple other little acts. And then I got in there, and Jay said, hey, also, we have this one guy. He's a country guy we signed. We saw him online. His name's Kane Brown. He's from Chattanooga, Tennessee. And Jay admitted, he said, I don't really know if I know what to do with it. And I said, well, let me meet him. And I met Kane, and I said to Jay, I said, everything else you're working on, like, respectfully, this is the thing. This is the thing. And he was like, okay, all right, go work on it.
Why? What struck you in a meeting with Kane?
Well, Kane, the first meeting I had with him, he didn't, Kane's shy. He's very, very shy. And he's come out of his shell quite a bit as he's gotten older, but he was very shy and didn't say much. But he just he has a charisma to him where when he walks in the room, like, you turn your head. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he has like almost that like force field energy that like draws you in. And so he's an incredible singer, and he's obviously biracial, and I was fascinated by how he had marketed himself online on Facebook. He marketed himself, and he understood. He would say, those early videos when he was going viral, I mean, he was growing 25,000 followers a day, and we would watch it because he would post a video and he would say, I'm going to sing a cover of Check Yes or No by George Strait. And most people were like, this guy? Because country music didn't look like Kane Brown. in 2015. And that's part of the attraction to me too, is that country music didn't look like Kane Brown, and now it does a little bit more, I think.
With you meeting Kane, I mean, he maybe he didn't, but he kind of had to say yes to you too. Or did he just not have any leverage at all and was like, I'll take anybody that's smart that knows what's going on?
No, he did. He had another guy that was working with him at the company, and so I was always just very like, hey, if you have a question, I can help you answer it. And then one day he sent me a text message. It's like classic Kate. He sent me a text message and said, hey, do you want to be my person? And I was like, I picked up the phone and called him. I was like, dude, of course. Yeah, I'll be your person. He's like, okay. And then that was kind of that.
Which I asked that question, asking, why do you think Kane felt like you were the right person for him?
I think because even before I was his quote person, I took him. He wanted to hear some songs and he wanted to meet some songwriters, and I think he creatively. I think he knew that I understood, like musically, where he wanted to go, and introduced him to some people, and I never asked anything in return for that. And then I don't know, like personality wise, like we always just kind of connected. Maybe he and I have the same birthday. Maybe that's it. I don't know.
How do you do with balance?
Balance, like
Life,
work.
work.
Oh, yeah, no, the work-life balance. The work-life balance. Look, the work-life balance.
Please, I'm going to take notes on this. My
No.
wife and I struggle with this.
Well, somebody's not going to like my answer, because the work-life balance is a fool's mission, in my opinion. Like you can't put that pressure on yourself, right? You can't put that pressure on yourself. Okay, this week I'm going to do X number of hours with my family, X number of hours with work. I'm going to turn off my phone. Like, it doesn't work like that. And I think when you put that pressure on yourself, things actually become harder. I think what I try to do, and people would, probably if you asked my family, they would, oh, Martha works all the time. Yeah, probably. Okay, fair. But I like it. I enjoy it. But I try to be where I am. That's the whole thing. I try to be where I am. So if I have 2 kids, and if I'm with my kids and we're playing, they're like big game players, they love games and gambling and all that, I love it. So we're in an intense Uno game. I am in that Uno game. I'm not, if I'm at my kids' soccer game, I'm not on my phone sending emails. But if I'm at work, I'm at work. If I'm traveling, I'm traveling. And so I think that's part of it, just being where you are.
I think that's a version of balance, though, being ever present.
Maybe so.
Wherever you are. I mean, I don't know that I've heard a better definition of balance than where you are, being where you are. I struggle with that. I think, I've been married now since July of last year. Otherwise, I've been single my whole life, and I have worked. And one of the big struggles at the house is, as soon as I wake up, laptop open, I either start working on the show or start writing. And I could literally, and I have, and she's actually just let me know, because she'll just watch and be like, just letting you know, I will go until it's time to go to sleep.
Yeah.
And then right before I go to sleep, down. And I've just stayed at it in one version the whole time. And when I'm not at it, I'm still at it, which I'm on the phone, which I don't like. That's the old version of me that was never going to change. I was never going to grow. Being that I was going to be more successful, but as a human being, I wasn't really growing because I was only working. There was nothing outside of these blinders except A, B, C, D, E, F, G. That's all. My struggle is being present.
The thing that made me be present more than anything is when I had kids.
We know we're
when I had kids.
Yeah.
And it's and I will say this, I was never like a kids person. I never even really saw myself as having kids. The second baby I ever held in my life was when I had my daughter.
Wow.
My life.
Second ever?
My life.
Wow.
Imagine that.
Who was the other one, though?
That's
what I wonder. Like, who was the one baby that you felt the need to just hold?
No, I think it was, I don't know. I think it was after I got married, and they just assumed, like, oh, you want the baby. And then I think they could tell by, like, I was like, is it going to explode? Like, I don't know. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, like, I was so comfortable being a parent, but it is such a gift, and it makes me better at my job, and it makes you cut out the deadwood, right? Because there's so much stuff we have that comes at us. It's just time wasting, and I became more focused and more efficient.
I like that you're present. Like, I think that I just learned something here. That is a new version of balance.
Yeah.
being present and be where you are when you're there.
Yeah.
Because I still work 14 hours a day,
Sure. Me
but
too.
I try to actually have dinner and put my phone away.
Yeah.
I try.
Just for 45 minutes.
Yes. On the weekends, I try to make sure to go, I'm going to plan this and we're going to do it. And it has nothing to do with me writing jokes or work. And so that has been something that I've been working on. But I imagine when you start with Kane and you're kind of starting over in a sense of you got your guy now, you're together. I can imagine the big snowball is coming at you again as far as like, we got everything to do now to work on.
Yeah, I mean, I let I let go of other things or other clients I had fired me. I remember one person fired me like the night of the CMAs because I was paying too much attention to Kane, and honestly, that was all a gift, right? Because for the first two and a half, 3 years we worked together, it was all we did. We were so focused. Kane and I were like laser beam locked in, and if something came at me that didn't have anything to do with what our mission, I just ignored it. Cut it out.
When you guys were kind of making your early plan, was it, hey, people are going to tell you don't look like country music, and here's what we're going to do back at that?
Yeah, I mean, people. It wasn't even I didn't even think about. Oh, we're gonna retaliate.
Well, not retaliate,
you know?
but it can be. We're going to put out great songs over and over again.
Yeah, we're just
until
gonna
they
keep doing what we're doing,
right.
and super serve the fans, and super serve the people that are there for you. And that's even the advice now. It's like even Kane and I talk about it now, where people are so mean on the internet, and it's like, just lean into the ones that are kind.
Yeah, whenever I moved here, it was awful. I mean, the first 2.5 years were awful for me here. Awful.
I can't imagine.
And it wasn't just Nashville, because Nashville kicked the crap out of me for a long time. But it was, they took us and put us on all of these country radio stations, which meant a lot of these stations had radio guys that were either retiring or they were firing because ratings weren't good. And so we weren't just feeling it on a level here at home. We were getting it in every single market. So I had to tell my guys, like, stay off of everything. Let me handle it. Stay off of it. But what we're going to do, we're never going to get those people. They may in a couple years come back around, but we got to take our people who are with us and make sure they know that they are the most important thing, and that's who we're here for. And so it was a version of that where we just knew we weren't getting those people that were upset that we existed.
Yeah, you can't, and that'll exhaust you. And why not lean into what's working? And because eventually they'll start growing, and for you, for Kane, for whoever, then they start outnumbering the dissenters, and then all of a sudden they start quieting the dissenters, and that's where you want to be.
And then some of the dissenters come back around and go, you know what? I didn't really give you a chance at first.
That's right.
But they never said they were wrong, by the way. They never said they were wrong. They're just like, I hated you at first, and now, my sister likes you. They won't even say they like us, but they're like, hey, my sister likes you. But I know what that feels like to go and not the same way at all, because we do different things, but just have everyone immediately go, you're not us and you don't represent us. When in the end, I represented them more than anything in the past that had claimed to do so, which was the craziest thing to me.
Exactly. But you never had that opportunity to even express that.
So when Kane is putting out the first music as a managed, was he signed yet, or did you do that with him?
Yeah.
It feels complicated.
Yeah, it's complicated.
Okay, so when you put out your first music that you're going to go to DSPs, digital or radio, like this is our first big release together. Why did you choose the body of work that you chose? Like, what was it to you that said, here, this is our entrance into the big world?
Yeah, when I first started working with Kane, he had put some songs out independent. He was in a production deal and independently had put some songs out, and they did really well. So then when he made his first, like you said, it was an EP. It was a 5 or 6 song EP for Sony. It was a couple of those songs that he had put out, because they'd never really been included in a collection of work. And then the other were when Kane, he did really work on his songwriting. When he came to town, he really worked on songwriting and found his small group. And so the others were songs that he had written that he was proud of. And Kane was touring. He was selling out. What was crazy is he was selling out 1,500, 2,000 cap rooms without having any product out. It was wild. And so we really couldn't get that first EP out quick enough.
So when you put out, what was the first song? I'm trying to think about. Was
Used to Love You Sober was his first kind of song.
so why that one?
That one was a song that was his first song he ever wrote when he came to Nashville, and he put it on social media. And Kane was one of the first artists to tease their music in Nashville, at least. I don't want to outside Nashville, other people were doing it, but in Nashville to really tease his music on social media, and the demand for it was so high that he put it out.
Were you satisfied with the reaction and also the success of the song? Because it wasn't a number one, I don't think.
It was a 30 number
Okay.
37.
But did you feel like, hey, we got some good traction here with the first one, or were you disappointed?
Well, we put it out, and it at the time iTunes was a thing. iTunes really mattered, and it did really well on iTunes, and it was number one on iTunes. We're like, oh my gosh, when we take this to the radio, it's going to be like an instant hit, and it wasn't. And so that was a bit of a reality check. And the thing about it is, with Kane was selling all these tickets, and so we were like, you know what? We're still connecting with people, obviously, because they're coming out and seeing the show, and the song was a gold record and all of this stuff. So you just have to kind of keep moving, keep working towards something.
Second song?
The second song, the label chose, it was called Thunder in the Rain.
You know what? I don't remember that one. I remember I know the first one.
Thunder in the Rain went to like number 48. It was not necessarily the greatest one we had. And so Thunder in the Rain, I remember when that was out, it was up tempo, and it was like, okay, but it was real musically. It wasn't really much Kane. It's not like he performs it live every night or whatever. But by this point, he had made a full album. And so we put out his first full album with a number 48 song coming off the chart.
Are you guys like, it's like two worlds. It's like one world. You're selling.
Yeah.
Both tickets
Yeah.
and music.
Yeah.
Because at the time, that was the thing. We actually sold downloads. But then you have, I'm assuming, these old school gatekeeper radio programmers that just aren't buying it. I mean, is buying it the term that you would use?
I mean, there was, I think, and I would never say who. I don't even know if they're still around. But I remember there was one person at a station, and I didn't really get in the weeds on that because the record labels have like whole teams of people that talk to the radio and stuff. But somehow I don't know. I think because we were doing a show in the market, and I remember I was talking to this guy, and he, I was like, "Hey, Kane sold out the show in your market, and it would be awesome, like if you could, maybe like play the song. We'd love to."
He sold out the show in their market, and you're begging for some little radio support.
Oh yeah, that happened everywhere. And the guy said, "Well, I don't play urban music. I play country music." And I said, "Oh, I know, that's wonderful because Kane Brown is a country artist." And he said, "No, he's not." And I said, "Yes, he is." It was like this, it was like comical almost. And yes, he is. And he goes, "I know he's not. I just looked at him." And I said, "Okay, well, maybe you should go listen to him." And that was the end of the conversation. And he did not play the song. I looked at him. I know he's not country. I looked at him.
And I'm assuming, again, I'm going to do a lot of assuming here, that as Kane's, again, and we're going to end this in a little bit talking about how massive he is, yet still underappreciated, that, again, how massive he is in places, that's probably still happening in a way. And I think that's probably why he's not getting the respect he deserves.
I think, do you mean like for award nominations and
I
things
mean,
like that?
for everything.
I don't know. I mean, I think sometimes, I don't know, maybe people put their vote behind what they see themselves in, and maybe they're
But isn't that the same thing?
superficial and don't see themselves in how somebody looks, perhaps.
Well, then I will say it. I do think that is a major. There is just no reason that an artist, if you take away faces and skin color and genitals, let's pull all that off, okay? It's the weirdest shape.
Sure, it's
all
like a
there.
Mr. Potato
yes,
Head.
it's that. And you just line up body of work, songs, streams, hits, radio number ones, concert. There's no reason that Kane shouldn't be, and he is to people like me and fans, but to the people that are organizing these higher level awards, there's no reason he shouldn't be in those conversations.
Right. I
So,
agree.
so what's the factor that keeps him from being there?
If you can answer that question, I mean, yeah, I don't know how to answer that question. What's
Oh, I
interesting?
can answer the question. I just did.
What's interesting is it's not everywhere, right? Kane's on the Time 100 list. The Time 100 list, when the 100 most influential people in the world, because he has changed the country format, I think, and perceptions of what is country music. And so it's not everywhere, right? But in the same respect, to your point, Kane Brown should be nominated for CMA Entertainer of the Year.
And I'm glad you said that, and not male artist.
Yeah.
Because he
Well, he
definitely
should be nominated for that too, but he's
you're right, and that's what I was saying. He definitely should be. But you're absolutely right. He should be.
He sold out all 29 NBA arenas. You know, he has God billion streams. I don't even know how many. I
Do you
should know
ever
that.
feel like just buying a billboard and going, here are the facts, listing facts? Or you could do like they do sometimes with sports. They'll go like, this person has all these accolades. This person has thrown for this many yards. Which one are you taking? And then they don't say who it is. And then they pop them up, and it's like, oh, I didn't know that Kirk Cousins had better stats than. And you're like, oh, I had no idea. I've just been led to believe because, I mean, I would be going crazy. He is the most unappreciated, massive artist that I have ever seen here.
Right.
And-
How do you change people's habits? Because I also think sometimes, like with voting for those awards and stuff, people vote out of habit too. Oh yeah, so and so, and you're like that person hasn't put an album out in 6 years, but they've won the last 6 times, so you just kind of vote for them out of habit.
That's happening less and less. I understand that point, but
I don't know that that's applicable to Kane necessarily.
I don't either. I think that you still have a small selection of folks that are not going to give Kane his due because of the same reason the first program director said he wasn't going to play Kane's urban music. And I believe that is being shaved down every single day, and that is being filtered out a little more all the time. But I would be lying if I didn't say that it wasn't there.
Right.
And to be again, you said he sold out every NBA arena. He goes to L.A. and what did he play? The Forum? Where did he play?
Staples
The
Center.
Staples Center.
Crypto. Yeah.
Yeah.
Twice in a year, 2 years.
Who else can
Sold
do
out.
that? Who else can do that? I mean,
Yeah.
there's a few, and they're up for Entertainer of the Year.
That's right. Yeah, no, it's true. I mean, but what's interesting is if you look at the fan voted awards, the CMT awards, always wins. Always nominated, always wins. He hosted them last year.
Well, and I don't want to keep beating this up, but I just feel like he is vastly, and I won't say disrespected because it's hard to say disrespect when someone has done so much, but he's done it all, yet he still hasn't been given what I think is deserved.
Maybe underappreciated.
Well, I've said it like 4 times already, and I don't want to keep saying the same word because Bobby said underappreciated 19 times in this stupid podcast. There are people to count those things. But yeah, it's amazing for me to see what you guys have done together. And it is at times frustrating to see what other people won't allow.
Yeah.
And it's only a very small, it's a select group, but that's a big enough group to actually not allow it to happen.
Right. So does the group need to change?
And the group is changing slowly. But like you said, people don't like when their culture is being changed. On a smaller level, I just have empathy because I've been there. And I know what it's like to win everything and have everything. And you're still, to some people, enough people to matter, a joke, undeserving.
Right.
So,
And it's
that's
completely
me.
false.
And that's me. I'm not talking about Kane, but I'm
No,
just talking
but
about, I'm inserting me into that.
It's it's a parallel situation. And I think that you, again, like you just, like, trust me, like anytime those nominations come out, like most people, it's like Christmas morning and oh my gosh. And for me, it's just like dread, you know, and Kane's always gracious. And if they invite him to come to the show and perform, he always comes and performs and does all of that. And he tries to be very gracious about it. And I appreciate that and always take the high road. But
You ever like, dude, you don't have to do that.
yeah, sometimes.
Yeah. My people do that to me too sometimes.
You're not gonna go.
We've really been dicked over a couple times in a couple of situations. And I'm like, don't do it.
Yeah, why?
Like, they don't respect you. Why are you going to respect it back? Well, I love what you guys have done and are doing, and I do feel like you're underappreciated. Ding, 19. So, and again, I think you'll be looked upon, your unit, you, Kane, your team, as one of the real game changers for an entire era of country music that in the future, when it's looked upon, it's going to be normal because you guys have normalized it.
Yeah.
You actually built the road 6 feet over to the left or right. I don't mean left or right, but you built the road in a new place, and people are just going to drive down that road in the future, and they're not even going to know, and they're just going to look at you as someone. Oh wow, yeah,
Yeah.
we're all
No,
doing it because like Kane.
that's what my hope is. My hope is that the 8-year-old doesn't ever know country music where they don't necessarily see them all types of people represented, because there are all types of country fans out there.
So what's the goal then?
Um,
Now, is it when you and Kane talk about goals? We have, my little team. We have a meeting at the end of every year, or mostly at the beginning. We're tired at the end of the year. We always plan at the end of the year, and then we're like, we'll
yeah.
just catch
See you in
back up in like
January.
mid-January.
Yeah.
What do you talk about this year? Like, what's the goal this year and the next 5 years?
Yeah. I mean, for Kane, he doesn't like to. He would say this himself. He doesn't like to set goals. I think it's a lot of pressure. For me, I'm always every success we have. I will say this for both of us. He and I, we never, when we do have a big success, we don't really like revel in it. We don't like
But
some
can
people.
you enjoy it though?
I mean, maybe for a split second, but for me, like anytime you have success, it's simply an opportunity and almost like for me, I feel an obligation to build and grow the next thing. So how do we build and grow? Oh, you whatever, you host the CMT Awards. Okay, how do we build and grow the next thing or whatever it may be? So I would say for me, for Kane, though, short-term goal next year is I'd like to really expose the world to him, and we'll do that through touring, and we'll do that through probably some other musical collaborations.
Uh, you're now working with Restless Road.
Yes.
So what is that story on you with them?
So, I mean, the Restless Road backstory has been told a couple of times, but they know Kane from years ago. And so for me, when Kane and I, a few years, 2019, pre-pandemic, I felt like we were in a good place. And we sat down and we had a meeting. And I asked him, I said, do you want to be like the type of artist who tours 6 months out of the year? And, he had some hits under his belt, some selling records and tickets, and then chills for 6 months out of the year? Or do you want to be the type of artist that is building like businesses, but kind of working all the time and putting their hand in different things and whatever? And he was like, I want to take advantage of this opportunity as much as I possibly can. That's what I want to do. And I said, okay, then we're going to build out some other like verticals or whatever term you want to use. And so we started a joint venture label with Sony. We started a production company. He started a publishing company. And so Restless Road, they're the first artists we signed to our joint venture label. So we have, yes, we manage them, but we also have a different type of investment in them. And so my goal is to grow them so that they can be, we don't have anything in the format like them. And I think that they're incredibly talented and they're good people. So I want them to be successful for the rest of their lives.
What is your most emotional career moment?
My most emotional career moment would, I don't want to go to the negative, right? But like any of those disappointments, like you're talking about, oh, you're not nominated for this, you're not nominated for that, like that stuff. I take it pretty hard because I take it as a personal failure. I really do. Like if Kane Brown's not nominated for a CMA award, I take it as a personal failure. And so that's very like emotional, oh, I couldn't do enough. But on the positive, I would say on the positive, probably, like the AMA awards with Kane were amazing. His first one where he won 3 AMAs and got to go up on stage and in front of his, all types of formats of music. That was a really big deal. And, I think just, our tour, getting back to touring after the pandemic was very emotional, because it was such a complex set of emotions we felt.
And we'll kind of wrap with this. I mean, we've done an hour. I could do 3, honestly. It's just been great. When it comes to new artists, and where there were a lot of new artists that listen to this podcast, this podcast was kind of born out of me talking to songwriters and people that do so much of the creating, if it's a person in a job like yours or a songwriter or a publisher or producer, and it's kind of swollen so big that well, artists come in because they want to talk about the second layer. So we have all these new artists that listen to this going, all right, how do I go from new, unsigned, unmanaged to meeting those kind of people? So all that being said, like, how does someone get a manager?
Yeah. Someone that's not in Nashville, especially, right? I think, honestly, it's easier now, believe it or not, than ever before because we have social media and you have TikTok. And I think the way you get a manager and the way you get a team around you is you create a fan base and you start figuring out how to connect with people and how to create your little world online. And then, I mean, I think that that's the first step is build your fan base.
Well, I'll end it how I started. I just think you're such a visionary for a lot of the things that you do that we didn't even talk about here. I also think Kane is like such a good dude, aside from just the music part of it. Like, I just love the guy. I mean,
Yeah, he is who he is.
and it took me a long time to understand because he didn't talk. And I was always like, okay, I don't know if he's a jerk or if he's shy.
Right. He comes off aloof.
So again, I do too at times. If I'm not when I'm on, I'm completely off. And people are like, well, that guy's a dick. And I'm like, no, no, no. I don't want to bother people. So I'm just gonna sit back. And I think I was like, I don't know if I like this guy because he doesn't talk.
Right.
And maybe he hates me.
Right.
And then I'm projecting.
Right. And making assumptions
Yeah,
and jumping to
completely.
conclusions.
And now
he's
then-
probably jumping to the same conclusions.
Just so that being said, the longer I've been here and been able to spend time alongside him and then even with him, and I think we have kind of a minor, almost friendship now. That's a minor
Absolutely.
almost. That's what I call it because he'll text. Well, he's invited to play basketball. That kind of stuff happens. But it's just like I just like the guy for a lot of the things he does that people don't know about. And I'm not even going to say some of the stuff they are now, but he just does a lot because I think he's been through a lot and he wants to help people not go through the same crap that he went through or similar things.
Yes, that's very
So,
true.
I feel like Nashville got lucky to have him. And I feel like, and I'm Nashville, just the country music world. And I feel like that is not understood yet.
I agree with you.
And I feel like Kane got really lucky to have you.
That's nice.
And I just love what you guys are doing. So,
Thank you so much.
and I think, Mike, we hit an hour here, huh?
That's it, yeah.
So usually we do 10 minutes, but we did it. I'm just kidding. No, we don't.
Wait a minute.
We don't. Well, thank you for coming by.
Thank you for having
I
me.
think people will take a lot from this. And Kane Brown, Restless Road. Who do you have on your arsenal now that's
We just signed a band, a non-country band, an alt pop, sort of synth pop band called Nightly that we're really excited about. And then kind of all of the 1975. And then an artist named Dylan Schneider who just signed a deal with Broken Bow.
all right? There she is. Thank you very much.
Thank you for
Great
having
to
me.
talk to you.